T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet, and welcome to the NXT Aftershow, which happens every Thursday, and other days if it's necessary, on our network. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the show. My name is Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, color commentator for the Belladonna Division, Battle Club Pro, and Black Girl Magic 2, and on the hosting team for this lovely network. But thankfully, I am not alone in talking about all of the goings on of NXT. So right next to me, as per usual, is the absolutely fabulous, amazing super mom, creator of NCAT We Trust, and just all around amazing person, Katrina Blake. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Tired. It's been a crazy week, but I am well. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it has been a crazy week, but I am glad it's Thursday, or Friday Junior, as most people say. Now, normally, of course, it would be just the two of us, talking about NXT. But today, we have a special guest, someone who is near and dear to both of our hearts, but nearer to Katrina because she's known her a lot longer than I have. But she's someone that I am happy to have met in our journeys as panelists for the Women of Color panel that Katrina crafted for New York Comic-Con and other conventions as well. She is one of the hosts of Unpopular Review with Bad Guy Jack, and she is a content creator and NXT enthusiast. Please welcome Shay Sawyer. What's up, Shay?
Hello. New York is up. I'm glad to be here, and yay! I can't wait to start talking about NXT.
Yes, I'm so excited that you're here. Even though I got the text message late, but either way, I'm still happy that you're here. And it's good to see you after, having seen you, last month. Like, it's really great. And I'm glad to see that you're doing well and you've joined us to talk about this show. Now, of course, those who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, thank you guys for joining us. And please know that you can comment and chime in on the certain parts that you enjoyed or any parts that resonated with you on NXT this week. So go in the comments and, go make our comments go crazy, and you will pop up on the screen. You might definitely pop up on the screen, and we might talk about whatever subject you decide to bring up. This episode of NXT was pretty solid for the most part. It was the continuation of a lot of different storylines that we thought were ended on Halloween Havoc, but have now continued to just keep going. And then we have other stories that have been introduced to the fold, since last week and everything else. And it's just been really fascinating. So, ladies, starting with Katrina, how did you feel about this episode of NXT as a whole?
So I didn't catch it like fully through this week because it's been a bit insane on the mom end on
Yes.
my side. But what I got from his results for clips and what I did get to watch, I actually thought it was really interesting. A lot of women's action, which I thought was really nice to see. I was like, yes, ladies. Uh, you know, it was nice to see that. And my guy our truth popped in there as we get into later on, and I thought that was I love him. And so it was like actually nice to kind of see him there doing what he does best. And so I thought it was a really good episode.
Definitely. What about you, Shay?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty solid, like together. I feel like sometimes people expect NXT to be like every match has to be like banger, banger, banger for it. But sometimes they focus a lot more on the stories, and I feel like this episode was very storyline based, and I was okay with that.
Yeah, I was pretty okay with that as well. It was pretty good. And JD in our comments, who is a faithful watcher of Women's Wrestling Talk, thank you, has chimed in and says, "Is this Katrina's sister?" I could totally see how you would think that, considering they do look similar, but no, they're not biological siblings. They're only sisters in wrestling and sisters in each other's hearts. But no, they are not biologically related. It's a pretty funny question. Yeah. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, how long? When did we meet? I want to say 2017. I feel like that's the first time I met you at a wrestling show. I think it might have been a viewing party first, and then HOG next. So yeah, it's
okay, okay, that makes sense. It's a long time. Oh my god.
Yeah, that is a pretty long time. Wow.
Jeez.
Well, yes, you guys have been in each other's life for that long. That's cool. And that friendship has now bubbled over into wrestling, and now all of us are here together. So, of course, we're going to start by, well, Shay, what's going to happen is we're going to talk about it from beginning to end. So, we're going to talk about everything that happened from the beginning of the show to the end of the show. So, we're going to do that. And we're also going to talk about like various little segments along the way, too. So, that's what we're going to do, and it's going to be great. So, I'm excited. So, of course, the show started with Pretty Deadly coming out. Well, no, it wasn't just with Pretty Deadly. It was the NXT champion Braun Breaker who came out first. And of course, he was making his return after, of course, retaining his NXT title at Halloween Havoc in a brutal match versus JD McDonough and Ilya Dragunov. Now, after they fought each other, they did announce that he would make his return on this week's episode, so he did that. And as he was cutting a promo, Pretty Deadly decided to come out, the NXT Tag Team Champions, and interrupt him. But then, as they were being goofy and interrupting him as well, they were interrupted by Wesley, the NXT North American champion. And they were just playing into the idea of, bigging each other up, kind of in a weird sort of way where they were talking about, saying nice things about each other. And Pretty Deadly was like, "Look, we don't appreciate this disrespect by y'all. Y'all need to respect us." And then Braun and Wes sort of fed into it, and they decided to actually go along with it for a while until they decided to take it upon themselves to challenge Pretty Deadly for the tag team titles so they could be Braun and Wes 2 belts. And Pretty Deadly didn't take too kindly to that. So they did that part. And then but then in the midst of that, while Pretty Deadly was going back and forth with them, they got interrupted yet again by R-Truth, who was set to go in his next match against Grayson Waller. And of course, everybody was excited to see him again, and he was being absolutely goofy like we know him to be. And that part was pretty funny. So along with this match, well, actually, before this match, there was this really funny part where R-Truth and Wesley did like a split off with each other, and I was like, "Oh snap, that was cool." Yes. So into this match with R-Truth versus Grayson Waller, the loudmouth. This match was pretty okay. For the most part. There was one point, of course, where you see Grayson Waller talking smack at R-Truth, being disrespectful like you know how to be. But then R-Truth kind of shook him up a bit with his youthful energy, which a lot of people don't really expect someone his age to have, but he really does have it. Like, he could be a champion today, okay? Like, R-Truth really is still that guy. And if they decided to put the rocket to him, he could do it. But sadly enough, Grayson Waller was outside of the ring, and then R-Truth went for a somersault, but then his foot got caught on the top rope, and the referee called off the match because he seemed to have suffered an injury and could not get up from it. So Waller basically was called as the winner due to referee stoppage, and this made everyone sad in the crowd. But Grayson Waller proceeded to brag about it as if he had did something, but it's whatever. And he talked and he basically said that he's better than anybody on any of the brands. And as you can see in this picture, R-Truth, the officials were checking on R-Truth to see if he was okay. So, started with Katrina. I want to ask you, how did you feel about this match and this form of information and knowing that R-Truth got injured, and how Grayson Waller was feeling braggadocious about winning, even though it was due to stoppage?
No, great. I think R-Truth, like I said, it's super entertaining. I feel like you can kind of put him with anybody and it'll work because he does it in a way that's not like agitating. And so like even I think of that segment with Brock Lesnar where he made Brock Lesnar laugh, and Brock Lesnar is apparently very hard to break, and he made him break. And so you got somebody who can do things and get to certain people to kind of break off what their character is, plus in my book. And then he also, like, let's be real, he looks a lot younger than his age. Like he is in like phenomenal shape. He can still kind of go. And so I'm hoping it's just a storyline injury and he's not truly injured. I'm gonna be sad. Because unfortunately, as we know, sometimes the little older it is, and sometimes it's a little harder to recover as quick as you would if he was, like, say, younger. And so I'm hoping it's just a storyline injury. He's not really injured, but if he is, I do wish him a speedy recovery. But I thought it was a good segment. The whole split off thing was funny. I can't split. So, like I was like, okay, y'all, because I can't do this. So y'all have fun, for me. Because if I try, that my niece will be like, no, Katrina, let's get back up. Let's rise. And so can it be me? But I love the segment. I thought it was cool. And as far as Grace, like, bro, when he said about he's the better bird, I was like, you are not Roman. So let's calm that down a bit. Like, calm that down. You're not my tribal chief. Okay. So let's shut that down a bit. He's getting a little too beside himself. Be confident. Let's not do shenanigans. He was doing a lot of shenanigans. And I was like, let's tone that down a bit. Let's not. But otherwise, I thought it was a pretty decent open to NXT.
Definitely, I agree with all of those sentiments. Well, Shay, how did you feel about this entire segment involving everyone, including R-Truth, Grayson Waller, and the champions, the male champions of NXT, and their little camaraderie, which will lead to the main event?
All right. Well, as you can hear, I love Grayson. I think he's one of the best heels in the business right now. Just the way he was able to work the crowd while R-Truth was laying, after their match and stuff. And then also Braun is getting a better connection with the crowd, I feel, because they're very wishy-washy with Braun. I think they're always like that with the guys that they feel are like, oh, he's clearly been picked to be that guy, so I'm going to boo him by default. No, I like the segment. I love Pretty Deadly. They never miss. They're just so entertaining. Wesley is great on the mic. He has grown so much since, Nash Carter leaving, and I love him. I thought it was a great segment all around with everything.
Yeah, that's a pretty differing opinion than we've heard on the show about Braun Breaker, and in terms of Grayson Waller, because even though Grayson Waller is good at being a heel, we kind of like to play into it. And I do like to talk about the fact that he do be getting on my nerves because he just be acting like he's better than everybody and he be obnoxious or whatever. But that's a very differing opinion that I haven't heard. It's like people actually liking Grayson Waller, as a heel. And I think that's cool. I'm really glad that you're bringing this opinion, to this forum in this way. Like, I love it. I love how different that is. And the fact that you would boo Braun Breaker, like, what's wrong with Braun, Shay?
I love Braun. No, I love Braun. But I mean, other people, they're so mean to him, and it like hurts me because Braun is like so talented in ring, mic skills, presence. He has the look, I guess, that they look for. But these days, does the look even matter? But he has the package. But the fans don't seem to get that. They are rude and disrespectful.
That is true. A lot of fans do think that if, you have the look and you have something that WWE would stereotypically look for, they have a tendency to beat down on them and just be like, no, we're not going to like them because we want to be, different. We want a different type of person who doesn't fit the aesthetic that you're looking for to be the star. And I get that. And then on top of that, it doesn't help that Braun, comes from a wrestling family too. Like he's a Steiner. So it's just like, even though that's not his name, but at the same time, it's just like a lot of people have a tendency to in terms of the fandom to kind of be like, no, we don't want this person. We want this person who doesn't fit the aesthetic. But the thing about Braun is that he has it all, like you said. So I definitely agree with that. In the idea that he does have it all. So I mean, it makes sense that he's on top because he has it all. He's getting better and better the more he, you know, continues to work in the ring and work at the performance center and everything. So he's gonna do fine. So in the comments, JD is saying that's funny. Shay mentions that because he's a Steiner and he's gonna be the guy, even if management didn't want it. Now, I don't know if I've heard that management didn't want it. Is that it, Shay? Is that a thing you've heard?
I'm not.
Hey, could you repeat it, Shay?
Hey, yeah, I'm not actually sure I've heard this before.
Kat, what about you?
No, I've only heard fans complain, but as Mr. Brian Danielson said, fans are fickle. They say they want one thing and then you get it, and then it's like a month later if they're complaining, and so it's like I'm all about the energy. My energy usually, it's very rare I actually turn. If I don't like a person, I don't like the wrestler, and that just probably won't change. I think the only exception to that was probably Edge and Randy Orton for me, but that was also because I was a kid when I didn't like Randy Orton and Edge because they used to really like get on my nerves and do shenanigans.
Mhm.
But as an adult, I was like, you know what? But I do appreciate your heel tactics. But as an adult now, it's usually if I'm writing, I'm writing. So I don't understand when people get mad, like when somebody gets on top, why you boo. It's like it makes no sense. But I have seen that from the audience. I've personally seen that as well. So I guess that's what Shayna meant. I'm not sure, but he just said he was just saying so.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and I appreciate all of this, conversation that we're having about the champion. But how did we feel about the idea of him and Wesley wanting to go after the tag titles while also holding singles gold? Because I know a lot of people in the fandom don't necessarily like it as much when a already established champion goes after another title. So how did you ladies feel about that? About that challenge to Pretty Deadly.
I took it more as a fun like type of situation. I didn't take it like Braun was really trying to go after the tag titles. I felt like it was just something to kind of have them kind of involved. That's the way I took it. Like you got the guys of the NXT who have titles. Let's just make something happen with this. I feel like usually when a person wants to go after double titles, they usually fall along the heel side to me. Because you're trying to prove a point, like, oh, I am kind of like better than y'all. And it's not often we'll see that from like a face type of champion when you're kind of trying. So I felt like it was more of a fun thing. Pretty Deadly usually can roll with that kind of stuff. So this is why I became fans of them. I like how they can kind of, just kind of roll with it. And so I took it as it was just like something fun and not really seriously. So I was okay with it. I didn't take it like, oh my God, why is Braun doing this? Because it's like, to me, it's, you had R-Truth in that whole, like, what's R, you put R-Truth in there too. I took it as it was just meant to be something fun and different for the show. I didn't take it as he was really intentionally trying to like double champion it up with the tag belts.
Yeah, what about you, Shay?
I basically agree with what she's saying. I think it was just something fun to throw around. We've seen it, numerous times in the past. So I was like, okay, this is cute. We know they better not win, though. They better not win. But, it's cute. Do it, sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It was something that was fun, to see in the sense of that. But I just wanted to ask because I know on Twitter a number of people were just kind of like, no. But, I totally get it. But moving on from that segment and moving to probably, of course, one of my favorite parts of the segment because Shay, last week I lost my mind because Ava Raine made her debut with the Schism, and I love the Rock, and so everything attached to the Rock I just automatically love regardless. So seeing as she is his and Danny Garcia's daughter, I'm just supporting her regardless. So this was just a really cool segment. So in this segment we had Vic Joseph, who's of course the play-by-play commentator for NXT, had a sit-down interview with all of the Schism. That's Joe Gacy, the two members whose names escape me right about now, but they used to be the Grizzly Young Veterans and Ava Raine. And it seems like for every question that Vic Joseph had for Ava Raine, she answered with clarity and with intention that I don't even necessarily see that much from people who have been in it for so long. Like she was just so intense and so papa 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 pa. And I'm just like, come on, Ava. Come on, Ava. Speak up and speak your mind. Now, mind you, Joe Gacy and the other two, did speak their piece about, what their intentions are. And then, of course, it led to them announcing that Joe Gacy and Cameron Grimes are going to fight each other next week for the last time, so they say. And this led to them making that announcement. But at the same time, it was just like every time Ava spoke, not even just because of, who she's tied to, but just because every time she spoke, I just wanted to hear more of what she had to say. And she sounded so good. And I was just like, well, be a star then. And then we heard more about her story in terms of how when she got signed to the Performance Center, how she got injured and how she was out for a while, and that the only people who called to check on her was Joe and the rest of the family. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting that you would say that. Even though you've been connected with so many other people in wrestling for a number of years, but okay, tell that. But yeah, it was just really interesting how she was really bigging up the fact that these are the people who truly, truly care about her. And why she connected with them and how nobody expected for it to be her. So I love this segment and I am just here on Team Ava Raine. So how are we feeling about her promo, guys? Like starting with Katrina.
It was good. I was actually really impressed because I wasn't sure what to expect. It's I guess a little different when you're doing like a reveal and it's like, oh, I'm part of something. But when they do reveals like the how they did with her, there's never too much about it just yet. It's kind of like they'll give them the next week to talk about it, kind of like what happened with Edge when he was a judge. It's always like they reveal it one week and then you kind of learn a little bit more the next week of what the reasoning was. And so I was actually impressed with how she spoke and how well thought out. I did kind of side eye though with that whole nobody called you because I'm not now, sis. You gonna tell me Dwayne is so busy? I get he doing all the movies and all, but you're gonna try to tell me, sis, that he didn't even check in on you? Like, so I did side eye. I was like, I will find Dwayne right now. I'm like, don't do that. Like, you're a parent. I'm a parent. Like, it could be my kid. I will be like ready. Like, who hurt my child? Like, even if it was an accident, like, but I'll burn it all down, okay, for my kids. So when she said that, I definitely was like, so Dwayne is doing all types of stuff, but he didn't give you a phone call or text like, are you okay, my child? I was kind of side-eyeing that, not gonna lie, because I was like, gonna have me looking at Dwayne all types of funny now. Like, gonna be looking at him all types of funny, like, you Black Adam, but you can't call your daughter, huh? That was gonna be me. So I did side-eye that. I definitely did. However, I did like the whole, like, again, if you think of like the little cults and how, oh, the cult was there for me. They accepted me for who I was, and this is always the reasoning people join cults and stuff, or why, like, oh, my family don't understand me, but this family understand me. And so I actually like that dynamic as far as she's saying, well, I got injured and you guys was here for me. I'm kind of, again, I did side eye because I was like, I don't know, sis, that don't sound right. But I did thought that the way she expressed that was really good. Like, I thought she had really good, like, I guess, mic skills, if you want to call it that, for an interview style type promo like that. I was like, okay, I kind of now want to see what her wrestling is like. Like how she's gonna incorporate that with the way they wrestle. I'm curious. But I thought it was really good. I thought it was a nice. I was impressed. I can't even say anything. I was actually like, oh, okay. except for the that comment, because I was really like, now, sis, because I just saw him in Black Adam. I would be like, do I gotta send him a tweet that he might not read, but still, but here we are.
Yeah, you never know, Kat. Like, you never know. He might see it. Like, he probably would see it. Like, you just never know. Because, I mean, there was that one time he did retweet my compliment to his mom on Young Rock and in real life. So, I mean, you just never know what he might see. He might surprise you one day.
Listen,
And I do agree with that.
I'm still devastated. There was twice I was supposed to meet him, and it did not happen. And it's just like maybe one day, but it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, we'll have to circle back to that story, but we need to ask Shay how she felt about this segment.
Yes, circle back to that. It's a good story. Yeah, but I loved it. Hearing her speak, I was like, yes, girl, go on, give us everything. It was so, like, I was shocked because, you don't expect someone to sound that, leveled and good when she's just starting out. But I mean, she's been around this business her whole life, so I guess, there was that. But yeah, the same thing. I'm excited to see her in the ring. Just see, like, if she has the whole thing. If she goes in that ring and goes crazy, oh my god, I'm gonna be like, a star is born. Like, that's it. Give her all the titles. I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm really excited for it. Just hearing her speak like that clearly and with intention, I was just like, come on now. Now, if you're fire in the ring, it's only up from here. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And for that to be her first like full on interview promo, she did so good. But let's go to the comments. Okay, JD asked me, even the G.I. Joe movies. Now, mind you, G.I. Joe was not my cup of tea, so I didn't see those movies with him in it. I just supported him in my heart, but I didn't go see that because G.I. Joe is just not my cup of tea. But if it is your cup of tea, then that's fine. TK is in, and she said, damn, where is the time code to Steph losing her mind last week? LOL. She's trying to share me being crazy
She
again.
did, though. There was a scene which she was like, yes. About Aaron. It's a whole thing.
Oh, TK stay trying to get me together on social media. It's so funny. Each Beauty says hello.
Hey, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. But we can all agree we are happy about the rise of Ava Raine, and it's almost to the point to where watching her is almost like you're almost forgetting that the schism is there, but not forgetting that the schism is there. So we just got to see how this plays out. But either way, I'm really excited. Yeah, JD, we get it. It was a fun moment. It was a fun moment for me. Okay, I was just really excited. I love Ava. Okay, but yeah, moving on to the next segment because we do have other stuff to talk about. We got the start to a lot of women's action in this episode. We had a match between Kiana James and Thea Hale of Chase U. Now, Thea Hale was feeling a little bit, excited as Andre Chase was hyping her up backstage. But then in the midst of that, she had a sad moment where she looked to the side of her and noticed, like, bruh, like, how are we gonna go out here, and who's gonna fly the flag? Which is making reference to the fact that Bodie Hayward is no longer with WWE because he did get let go in this round of small cuts that they made from NXT, which included other people as well. But Bodie Hayward was definitely one that was felt throughout the fandom. And it made me sad too because I loved his spirit and what he brought to Chase U. But we do definitely wish him the best in all of his endeavors. But Duke Hudson volunteered to fly the flag, and it was funny watching him fly the flag out there because at first he was kind of on the struggle bus a little bit because the flag kept wrapping around the pole, but then finally he he unraveled it finally and then started flying it correctly. So Duke Hudson seems to be, on the Chase U train, so we're gonna embrace that. But this match was pretty okay in the sense that her and Kiana James have had sort of like this back and forth rivalry. And this, I believe, is their second or third match that they've had on NXT. And Kiana James seems to always get the best of her. Like, somehow, even when Thea Hale shows off the best of her ability, somehow or another, Kiana James uses all of her strategic knowledge that she has in her brain to overpower Thea Hale. So In the end, Kiana James wound up winning the match with a pair of 401ks. But interestingly enough, before she won the match, there was a point where Thea was knocked out from the first 401k, and then Duke Hudson tried to put her foot on the rope. And the referee saw it and told him not to do that. And then Andre Chase told him, "What are you doing? We don't cheat. We don't do that at Chase U. Go and leave the ring right now. You don't do that." And so Duke was getting ready to leave, but then as he was getting ready to leave, that was when the other 401k got hit on Thea Hale as she was distracted, and Kiana James won the match again. So this made me sad because I want Thea Hale to win because I love Chase U. But in the meantime, in between time, let's go with Shay and tell me how you felt about this match and how you feel about the new direction of Chase U in light of Bodie Hayward's release.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about Bodie being released, that was very shocking to me. I wasn't really like that sold on him just because I felt like he didn't really have a finished product. Like himself, I felt like he was so just Chase U. Instead of even Thea, she has her own aspects and things that she brings to the group. Whereas I feel like Bodie was more just the group, if that makes any sense at all. But I did enjoy this match so much. I feel like Kiana's one of the best sellers in wrestling. I don't know if anybody pays attention to that. Her selling is so good. And Thea has always impressed me in the ring, so I did enjoy this. I felt like it was kind of dumb with the whole Chase, like we don't win like this. I'm like, you just lost, so you don't win at all. You're telling me you don't win at all? Because I would have just took the win, and then we talk about it later. You just lost. I don't know, but I'm excited to see where this goes with Duke because I just want to see Duke being utilized because he is so talented. That is my thoughts.
Those are pretty valid thoughts, and very surprising thoughts too. So you would have actually preferred if Thea got the win even by underhanded tactics?
Listen, when you look back on it, all you see is the W. That's all you see.
Dang, cold world, Shay, cold world. That is very cold, but hey, I feel like you have to admire the idea that Chase U doesn't want to, win by that, and then they want to win by, their abilities, and trying to do it the fair and square way. But yeah, I guess I get it. I kind of get it. I don't know, but they say cheaters never really prosper. But yeah, Katrina, how did you feel about it?
I was a little. I am sad that one of the members are no longer there in regards to you kind of see like a squad. You kind of want the squad to keep going, and so that was unfortunate. But I like both. I like both of them. I love that whole 401k. To me, it's like hilarious when you think what a 401k really like means for like adults and stuff, and it's like tedious and sometimes a hassle. You got to make sure you got your stuff all in order. So to have that as like a wrestling move to me is like actually really funny. To me, to name a move. But I don't know. I kind of feel like kind of split on it because it's like I normally go for unless you're like Roman because hello. I'm normally a person that is with faces, and so I normally gravitate to the ones who do better and don't do underhanded. But if like I tell people all the time, if I was wrestling, I would feel like I would teeter closer to the negative. I feel like sometimes I think about certain things. I'm like, would I let you talk to me like this? Like, no. Like, like if I was waiting for the Undertaker, am I gonna wait for you to walk down the ramp 20 years later? God no. We're gonna have to take it squared up right there. If I might be losing, I might be a little bit knocked out because I'm a tiny person and somebody like throws me down and I'm like, oh, wait, take me a little bit moment. And my friend was like, you know what, Katrina, I got you. Let's put your thank you, friend. And so I don't know. I feel like I kind of like I want to be like as a fan. I'm like, no goodness, but if I was I don't know if I'll be so like. I respect that it's like universities sometimes could be real shady. If you've been to college, sometimes university is a little shady, and you think, look at that school bill, you're like, what is this? Sometimes university is a little shady, and so the fact that there's supposed to be some moral integrity, I like that aspect of it, but I can't really fully say as a wrestler would I completely be against it, only because there are moments where I'm like, I really feel like my thinking is like, I don't know if I'll be letting this slide. My thinking is too much like, could it be me? Like, kind of vibes that are just like, I might be okay if the homie is like, I got you, Katrina. I'll be like, you know what, sis, drinks after when I get myself up and dust off because that's a lot of work. But you know, a drink. I feel like I feel like I'm kind of tweening. I feel like I'll be like, like I want to be a straight heel because there's certain things I don't want to do, but I feel like I would definitely tween. So I don't. I mean, I kind of see it, I guess, but I understand the integrity part. I think that was like a cool aspect if you're holding on to your integrity as a face. I think that was cool.
Yeah, but then on top of that, I also like how Shay mentioned that Kiana James is a great seller. That's something I've never paid attention to before in terms of her because I guess a part of me is just trying so hard to figure out what her gimmick is. But seeing as her finisher is called the 401k, maybe she's somebody that majored in business. Like maybe that's her thing. The fact that she, has such a business brain that maybe she, majored in business and that she helps people with their finances or stuff like that. Maybe that's the deal. But then she also has building deals too. So I don't know. Maybe she's just an all around business owner person. But either way, the comments are going crazy right now. Um, because I said cold world, it looks like we have a I don't know if this has ever happened before on Women's Wrestling Talk, but we have an orange um donation super chat thing. Thank you, Dwayne, for that. Um he said that made me pop. Okay, that's so fantastic. I don't know how to do this. Um so yeah,
Much appreciated. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. And then TK said, oh wow, I'm learning so much. Don't mess with Steph and Katrina. Don't at all. Like, don't get on our bad side.
Part of it is a New York thing. I tell people like, listen. I think somebody posted something about New York earlier, and I was like, and I think they said we'd say we're like the best at everything and we do everything first, but we are like, like, there's no argument there. Like, of course we are. That's what I would say. This I would always up New York, and so maybe a part of it's that, but also realistically, I'm not like I'm nice, but I'm not that nice. So it can't be just letting things slide. So I feel like in certain aspects, definitely a tweeter. So yeah, sorry, TK.
I mean, yeah, like it really seems that you probably could be a betweener between face and heel and stuff like that. And sometimes for some people that's okay. And I try my level best to be a baby face in all things, but just don't mess with me. Don't think that just because, I'm a sweetie pie and I have the face of a doll that you can't mess with me, okay? Like don't just no. We're just not gonna do that. And I believe that Shay probably feels the same way too. I believe in the comments someone was saying that Shay might be a bit of a heel, and that may be true. That may be true.
I'm a tweener for sure.
Oh yeah. And then TK said, "Oh wow, New York style." Yes, it's a New York tag team up in here. It's great. It's a New York tag team, and then you got me, Alabama.
You are a soul sister of New York. You've been here too many times now.
I mean, yeah, I may have been there three times. You're right, but
honorary New Yorker, not
yeah, honorary New Yorker. You're one of us now.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. Respectful Alabama, that's what we're gonna do. Yes, that's what we're gonna do, and we're just gonna leave it at that. Respectful Alabama, okay. So this was a really interesting match, and like I said, I will pay more attention to Kiana James's selling style. Now that Shay has mentioned it, that's a really good point. I'm going to pay more attention to that. What I will say is this, though, there was some type of other stuff involving Kiana James backstage with Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs and Fallon Henley. Speaking of Alabama, they were having a backstage segment with Mackenzie, and with them interviewing and talking about how they feel about the landscape of the tag team division. Kiana James actually handed Fallon Henley like some papers, and it's just we don't know what the content of the envelope was, but I guess we just have to wait and see. But I guess it might involve Fallon or it might involve the boys. I don't know. But we just got to wait and see. So the next match was between Big Body Javier Bernal and a returning to the ring Odyssey Jones. Now we did see him return last week when he pulled up into into the parking lot to try to cheer up Idris Enofe and Malik Blade after their tag team title loss. But that match was definitely stellar. It was really good. But we saw him, roll up with this truck full of women to try to cheer them up. And then we saw him a little bit backstage, of course, saying that him and coming from backstage from talking to HBK, saying that he was going to have a match, telling Javier that he was going to have a match with him. So this is what came of it. Now, of course, Odyssey Jones had been gone, and they talked about on commentary how he was out with injury, and it felt like he was out for like almost more than a year or even a little bit over a year. But either way, he was performing to the best of his ability. He was moving really quickly. His agility was on display in this match. Like, he was slamming him over and over again, like the football player that they said he used to be. I forgot what university they mentioned that he used to play for, but he really did used to play football out here. So all of that was on display, and he wound up slamming Big Body Javi to the mat for the win. So it was kind of a squash match, if you want to say, if you kind of want to call it that. But yeah, it was really good to see all this agility from Odyssey Jones, and seeing that he now has a symbol of his own, and that the entire crowd was really here for him. So I really like that. So Katrina, starting with you, how did you feel about this match between Javier and Odyssey?
I kind of did feel it was a bit of a squash. It was cool. I liked the aspect that he was very dominating being a football player, and there's a lot of football players do end up wrestling, for some reason. I think there's a few of them that went to like the same team or was in the same school at some point. There's a few of them in WWE that apparently either played at the same school or played on the same team, and so um I thought it was nice to kind of see, him back and all, but I definitely felt like this match was a bit of a squash because it was like, oh, all right. Like, okay, like we kind of like he didn't get too much offense on the match, but otherwise it was nice to see them both, honestly. And so I'm hoping like next few weeks or months we can see more of, and it's not so much of a squash match, because I did feel like it wasn't as much offense that could have been there. It wasn't like a crazy squash when you're like, all right, seconds. But it definitely wasn't one where there was like some major storytelling either. It was kind of quick. And so I'm hoping with that going on later on that, we can get more from them. But it was nice to see them, especially because he was gone for a long time. And I'm like, oh, it's always nice to see somebody come back from like an injury and they're like looking better and they're moving better. And that's always good to see. So outside of like it being quick, I thought it was a nice little just kind of see them back, both of them in NXT.
Yeah, what about you, Shay?
I definitely agree with that. It definitely was a squash, which I hated because I'm a big fan of Javi. I think he is so entertaining. He kind of reminds me of Grayson in that way of like, they just know how to get on your skin and they're entertaining. So just like give him more matches where he's not being embarrassed, please. But I'm also happy to see Odyssey Jones back, because I was confused a little bit, because I know sometimes we got reports when he's backstage at SmackDown, backstage at Raw. I didn't know what they were doing with him. So yeah, I'm glad he's here, because I think this is where he needs to be.
You were saying Odyssey? Odyssey was backstage at Raw, SmackDown, or Javier?
Yeah, like I'd say like maybe 2-3 months ago, I saw like a report that was like, oh, he's backstage. And I was like, why? Why is he backstage? But luckily they did not pull the trigger and we're doing just fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm actually glad that he is back in NXT too, because it seemed as if they were kind of going in hot with him, even with Carmelo Hayes there, because of course they were in the breakout tournament together for the men, the first one, and they were both fighting, to get that opportunity for whatever title. And Odyssey Jones was honestly my favorite to win. I know it may not seem like it now, because of course I love Carmelo, but at the same time, like at the time, I was really looking at Odyssey Jones to be next up. But Carmelo wound up winning, and then after that, Odyssey was doing his thing, and then he was out. So I am glad that he has returned, and like you said, Shay, and also like Katrina mentioned, I do want to see more from Javier, where it's like it's not him just being embarrassed, because it seemed as if backstage he was bragging about having this match against this mystery person and saying like, oh yeah, I can handle anything and I can beat all these people, blah blah blah. And then when he found out it was Odyssey, he was like, oh, he was choking. Like, don't write a check that your ass can't catch. Like, don't do that. Like, you can't just do that. Like, you got to be able to step it up regardless of who it is. Be ready, okay? But
Yes.
yeah,
I'm sorry, because my mom says that all the time, and that's so true.
yeah, your mom's a wise woman. Like, you can't just be talking all that big stuff and then all of a sudden, you know, once it gets rough, you ain't got the funds. Like, no. Back up your funds. Don't walk up to the bank with insufficient funds. It's not fun, okay? It's not fun. But yeah. 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 TK laughing. Everyone's laughing. But yeah, that's just how I feel. But Eat Your Booty asked a pretty valid question. She's saying, could you imagine Javi and Grayson as a tag team? Ladies, how are we feeling about Javier and Grayson Waller as a team?
Maybe I feel like Grayson knows a little too. Like, would that work long term? With his ego, like, would that work long term? Would that be some discord at some point because his ego is like, oh, I'm better than everybody, and like, you know, do you? I'm sorry because I just saw a comment. Um, like, would that work with somebody who's like, oh, I'm better than you, I'm better than everybody? Eventually, you're gonna be like, okay, first of all, let's not do any of this. And so like, I mean, I can see it, but also, how long would that team last?
I don't
Yeah,
think it would last that long at all.
I don't think it would last long at all. And I also think maybe it could end up being like a pretty deadly thing, but I don't see that happening at all. They're just way too self-involved. Definitely should stay on opposite sides of the room at all times.
Yeah, I agree. I just feel like Grayson Waller would just get so cocky that he would think he made Javier, and I don't need that for him. Like, I made you. You wouldn't be nothing if it wasn't for me, blah, 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 and I don't need that in my life. So, yeah, we're going to move on from that. But Odyssey Jones wound up winning the match against Javier. So, congrats to him. So, moving forward, we move to the 1 year celebration for Miss number 21 on the PWI herself. No shade, because I mean, it was a good ranking. To Miss Mandy Rose, who is, of course, a year-long NXT Women's Champion, and they advertised this celebration all throughout this week and last week and stuff like that. But we got it cracking on Tuesday, and the girls looked good walking backstage. You had JC Jane in her black leather pants and her crop top. You had Gigi, my wife, looking fantastic per usual. But then you had Mandy, who popped up in this little suit, and I loved it. I loved it. I was just like, girl, what? I can't believe, like, her outfit was just so cute. Like the fishnet stockings, the boots, like just the whole get up, her hair, her necklace, everything was just so cute. And of course, she got dolled up as the champion that she knows she is. And the other girls got dolled up with her too. So it was beautiful. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And yes, TK, Gigi Dolan is my wife. She just is. I'll explain it to you offline, but she just is. So, as the girls came in the ring, they basically bigged up Mandy Rose and said all these beautiful things about her. And then they switched over and basically told her to look at the screen, because they created like a whole little montage of her and her journey in WWE as a whole, and not just in NXT. And they showed her, of course, when she was the blonde beautiful girl from Absolution with Sonya Deville, her being on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, hers, and all of the moments that she's had, so far in WWE on the main roster. And then they showed her moving to NXT, and then, of course, making her re-debut along with Toxic Attraction with her new brunette hair, and which took some time for me. It took some time to grow on me, because I was just so used to seeing her as the blonde. But then the more she did with it, the more I started to actually love her in brunette. So it was gorgeous. And then it showed her first winning the title. Like literally, I had almost forgotten that she had beaten Raquel Rodriguez for that title, but yes, she did. Even though it was with help, but still, and shenanigans, she still won it. And then they showed all of her victories, all of her entrances, and all of the things that she's done so far. And as they were sitting on the couch watching it, after this montage was over, they stood back up, and Mandy told the girls thank you. And she cut probably what I would believe is probably one of the best promos that I've ever heard her cut, outside of her saying how she's beautiful and how people are jealous of her and all that other stuff like she used to say. This time, Miss Mandy got on the microphone and spoke like some really hot stuff. Like she said that so many people, underestimated her and thought that, once she came to the main roster, they thought that she was just there because she looked good, or she was just placed in certain situations because she was just this beautiful, centerfold. She called herself what Sonya Deville called her during the pandemic, a centerfold B word. And literally, that's what a lot of people really thought of her. Like, they really thought that she was just eye candy and that she wasn't anything serious, and that she only wanted to be there for the attention it gave as opposed to being there to be an athlete. And she mentioned that going to NXT was the best choice that she made for herself. And in finding Gigi and JC, they created and became a dominant female faction, and that people really should, start respecting her a whole lot more, in terms of not only just her action, but just in terms of what she's accomplished in the year. And it was really good and it was all cool until she got interrupted by Miss Alba Fire, who is still angry about the idea that she lost her title match at Halloween Havoc because even though she tried to get rid of the other two, Gigi and JC, in the haunted house, they still found their way out and interfered. So she interrupted the celebration, tore up the pictures, beat up security, and slammed Gigi through the table, and told Mandy on the microphone that she is going to take out every member of Toxic Attraction until I take that title from you. So it's looking like we have a rematch getting cracking between the two. So, starting with Katrina, how did you feel about this segment, and how do you feel about the idea that Alba is coming back to get it in blood?
So this is one of the things I actually didn't get to see, and so I kind of saw it like afterwards. Uh, so as I've said previously, wasn't a fan of Mandy. I'm actually still not really a fan. I still a little bit about Miss Miko. Some like we just that's a rant for another day. I still feel the way that she beat her technically, because hello, it's Miko. Like, do you see this? Like, she can wrestle her ass off. And so I'm a little mad. I'm still mad that they had her win and become the undisputed both NXT, NXT UK. However, as I said previously, I do respect that she's clearly gotten better. Like, she can sit here and act like she was no, sis, you got better. It's okay to admit that you wasn't at the best when you first got to WWE. She definitely was, and I'm taking like men out of this. I mean, in general, it was eye candy. Her gimmick was eye candy. It's like Sonya was the one that kind of did the ass kicking, and then Mandy was there, like she was the pretty one. And so I liked that and I don't know if maybe that's why they went brunette with her, to kind of take off the blondes, do better, or whatever that WWE tends to do sometimes. And she came back and she clearly got better. I do like that clearly the faction has helped her. She made it to a year as a champion, which I thought I would never see with her in WWE ever. To be honest, I never thought I would see her. But then I think about like how when Trish first came and when she first started, and she came back better, and then she wound up being a champion multiple times. And so I take it as like, not, I don't want to say Trish Stratus method, but like as far as like knowing you probably need to tweak something and then come back better. And so I respect that she did that. However, as I said, I want Alba to take the title from her. So I am all for her flipping people, do the tables, and do what you need to do, sis. You gotta take down all of them, do what you like. I feel like she, as you said earlier, wrote a check that she can cash. Okay, she's talking all that, and I was like, yes, do you, sis? Okay, I want her to take the title. I felt like there were other ones that looked, but I feel like if we're going to someone who can truly give her, like, I feel like it's her. I see it. I would love to see what she can do as the NXT Women's Champion, like solo without what she was in NXT UK. And so I'm okay with this. I'm fine with the fact that we get in a rematch, and maybe Mandy had her little year celebration of, oh, you came a long way from when you first got here, and she gave a better promo on her, and that's great. But now thank you, Alba. Let's just speed this along. Let's end this year reign. Like, you got your celebration, yay! Now let's burn it all down with Alba. I'm all for it. I guess that seems more like the heel situation, but burn it all down now. She had her year. It's time. Let it go. It's fine. So I'm okay with this, honestly.
Oh.
Well, Shay, how do you feel about it?
Oh my gosh, she said burn it down. I can't. But I mean, it's the music. I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, I like Mandy. I know that you guys like, you know, half and half, but I'm very for Mandy. I've always saw that she was like a work in progress from the very beginning. And I also felt like them wearing the hats. Was I the only one that felt like she was doing like a Nikki Bella callback? Because I feel like they've always kind of compared those two, because Nikki Bella at the time, people would say, oh, you can't be a champion. You can't be champion for this long. You're not the type or whatever like that. And then also same thing with Mandy. So when I saw the little, I don't know why, but the red, you know, hats with the, you know, the back always reminds me of Nikki Bella. So I always felt like, oh, she's kind of calling back to Nikki, because I feel like they are similar in a lot of ways, which is not a bad thing. But I am over Alba. We've had enough matches with these two. I love Alba. Here's the thing. I love Alba, like, as a wrestler, everything. Like, that's my girl. But, like, they were on the third time. I am tired of seeing these two women in the ring. So she better win. Or no more, Alba. If you don't win this time, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to smell fire. I don't.
See, Shay, here's the thing. As much as I love Alba Fire and as much as I respect her and everything she did in NXT UK as the longest reigning women's champion of the modern era, I have to agree with you. I agree with you, Shay, in the sense that Alba saying that she wasn't going to stop until she took out JC and Gigi. From my recollection, you tried to do that before. You did that at Halloween Havoc. It's like you beat these girls up in a haunted house, you stuffed them in freezers and had zombies come after them, and they were supposedly stuck in this haunted house, and they still found a way to come back and still, you know, distract you to the point to where you couldn't win the match. So even though that is shenanigans, with how Katrina puts it, and that is true, it's just the fact that you tried to get rid of them before and you couldn't do it so easily. So what makes you think this time is going to be any different?
See,
That's what
the
I'm
thing,
questioning.
though. I feel like they need not to be involved. Now, if they're not, now this is where I will be okay. If she's completely gone against Mandy, meaning there's no distractions, there's no toxic attraction waiting in the wings, and she still lose, then all right, you lost on your own. But I'm like, we can't be sitting here acting like Mandy was doing all this, because she has not. A lot of her matches she did win with help. Quite a few of them, actually. She won with some kind of interference from her squad. And I know that's heel stuff, and heels tend to heel. But, you know, a haunted house, if you're like me, that's nothing. Like, okay, you find your way out and you get to go. And like, it's not like it's like a, like, you know, with some real ghosts. It's like a regular haunted house with some actors. Like, sis, I don't know what she thought she was going to do with that. But that was not the thing to do if you was trying to really get rid of them. Like, sis, how you gonna put them? Like, that's probably fun. Like, I like haunted houses. Like, okay, let's get to the end and go to
Yeah,
the next
Gigi was
activity.
having fun in the house.
So I feel like if it was one of those vibes, they probably had a good old time. It came out. So it's like, maybe she should have tried a different thing that wasn't a Halloween haunted house. And I'm like, sis, we like those. Like, even if you don't really like scary things, you might like a haunted house during Halloween. That might be the exception to the rule. Like, you might want to be like, oh, okay, it's gonna be a little good old time with some buddies. I just feel like, you know, if they have it where there's no distractions, meaning they have to stay away from the ring and she still lose, then I'll be like, all right, sis, well, clearly something ain't jamming here in NXT. But if she like has it again where they're interfering, did she lose it fairly? Like, was it like a clean loss where she just like kind of sucked and she lost? It's like, no, she's Mandy kind of have help a lot of the time. I think the whole triple threat was the one time she really didn't have any help. She won her own. Still mad about that, but she won her own. And so that was a little bit of a better victory than the other ones where you're kind of having the squad kind of helping you out to keep your belt in extent. So I feel like I can agree if it's a match where there's no interference from them. And if she loses, I'm like, all right, sis, just let it go. Kind of what we were saying about JD with his thinking he needs to have bronze title. I'm like, bro, you literally lost multiple times. So, yeah, if it's done like that, I'll be like, all right, move on, sis. Just let it go. Talk to your therapist, cry about it, and move on. But if it's like a situation where the last one was kind of interference, I'm like, well, maybe this is why she mad. Because she keep being interfered. Like, maybe don't interfere. Let her take that out. Because actually, I would talk more crap if I beat you. Honestly, the crap I'll talk. I would talk. Like, me personally, I'm going to talk crap to the end. Like, you thought. Something like that. So I feel like if we move along from it, it has to be where there's no interference from toxic attraction.
Yeah, I think to your point, Kat, with there being no interference and there has to be a stipulation, Ichibuti actually mentioned that before you said that. They were saying, I think there's going to be a stipulation in that match that's going to happen in 2 weeks, like a steel cage or inferno, because this has happened twice already. To Shay's point, yep. And they also said, I tend to agree. I like Alba, but there's so many other people. And they were also saying that they wanted Saray to take it from Mandy because she in kayfabe broke Mandy's face, and that she also beat Wendy Chu cleanly. Well, okay. Yeah, so I mean, there's so many possibilities with this. Alba Fire could win and wind up having, a really long run with the title. And there could be a stipulation in there. You never know. We still have time before, they fight each other. But then in the meantime, they could have somebody else waiting in the wings to challenge Mandy. Maybe Trinity Naomi. You never know. I mean, that's just my crazy theory. You just never know. But yeah, this celebration was definitely good. And I really enjoyed Mandy's promo because she was talking about all the ways in which people, have, underestimated her all of this time and how she has improved and how this is, her NXT. So it was a really good promo and I love them and I still want Gigi to marry me. So yeah, that was good. So moving forward after that, there was a promo that I missed that came from Scripps, who left another cryptic message. And I want to ask Shay, who do you think Scripps is?
Oh, I don't know. See, at first I was like, is it Dijakovic? But then I was like, no, it's not Dijakovic because he had his own promo later on in the show.
Right.
So I'm like, who is this person? Like, I really can't think, but like, just with how NXT has been lately, I don't want to think of it as someone that I could like in my mind think of. I'm thinking it's gonna probably be someone who's from the Performance Center, someone they've hired because they've been so like pro pushing their newer talent. So I'm less inclined to think, oh, maybe it's someone I know of or someone from the main roster coming back. Like, so I'm just like, I really have no idea.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to put together, but in my mind, I was thinking, I was just thinking, now last week I said it could be Adam Cole, which is a very weird, crazy prediction to make because I just like to make crazy predictions. But then another part of me thought now, like it could be someone else from NXT UK. And that's still pretty cool because you have the likes of Oro Mensah who did very well in the ladder match for the NXT North American title. So I mean, it could be somebody from NXT UK, but you never know. But Katrina, have your thoughts changed about Scripps and who you think Chris Scripps is?
No, I kind of was like I said before. I feel like it's probably gonna be somebody we least expect because, like, it might be this person, but I feel like to make it really like, who could it be that we know that will be like, oh man, like I feel like you have to, in the way these messages are coming in, it has to either be somebody we truly don't expect or somebody we like either coming back down to NXT and we're unaware of that or somebody we don't really know much of. I feel like that's the way that can work where I'll be like, oh, okay, let's see what we're gonna do. Like as much as Adam Cole was all NXT, like like I mean he got his woman and all. I feel like he's in a good space that as much as we may miss him with his squad in NXT, that's not gonna happen. So I feel like it has to truly. I'm trying to think who could. I'm like, ooh, okay, like you surprised me. You put a wool over my eyes. I feel like I can't even think of somebody that I'll be like, oh, I didn't expect that. So I don't know, honestly. It could really honestly be like anybody either from the main roster or somebody that was gone for a little minute, kind of forgot about them. Or as Shayna said, maybe somebody who signed and they kind of was like waiting to see that this can be a good debut for them.
Yeah, you just never know. It's hard. You just never ever know. In the comments, each booty is saying Isla Dawn. I think it's going to be Isla Dawn or someone from the PC. That's a good, prediction as to who it is. But either way, they're just so cryptic and I love it and hate it at the same time. But either way, that's what we've got going on there. So moving on from scripts, we had another women's match between Zoey Stark versus Indi Hartwell. And of course, backstage they showed them having a little bit of a excuse me, a little bit of a scuffle and an argument because of course Zoey Stark is still pissed off about having lost the women's tag team titles to Team Casey Squared. Shay, I called Kaden Carter and Katana Chance Team Casey Squared because their names begin with K and C.
That's amazing.
As best friends. So that's what I call them. That's my nickname for them. So they lost to them, and Zoey is really pissed off about it. And she seems to be so pissed off about it that she's just going around picking fights and taking frustrations out on everybody. And her and Indi Hartwell got into a little bit of an argument, and so they challenged each other to a match. And Zoey was trying to calm down, and Nikita was really trying to get her to calm down and be about peace and love, like she kept saying over and over again. But Zoey was really showing the best of what she had to offer in this match. Like she was kicking all kinds of butt in this match. There was one point where she did a backflip off of the second rope from the outside onto Indi, and I was just like, "Girl, you better pop off," And then there was even one point where she got frustrated and she was beating the commentary desk over and over again, and it scared Booker and Vic. But and of course here again, Nikita was still trying to get her to calm down. And even in this picture, you see like you had like a clothesline from her and everything. And then in the next picture, I'm sorry. I'm slow. Um you have Indi Hartwell, hitting her with all of her big moves and stuff. But in the end, after Zoey was trying to fight with herself to try to like hit her or knock her through something or use like some type of weapon, she decided to change her mind and not do it. And Indi Hartwell wound up kicking her in the head and hitting a clothesline for the win. And of course, this frustrated Zoey Stark even further. And then she went backstage with Nikita, and Nikita was still trying to calm her down. But it didn't really help that much. Now, of course, the two girls, Nikita and Zoey, will have their rematch against Team Casey Squared. And the champions actually did confront them backstage and said, look, if your performance was anything like that, you are not going to be ready to face off against us next week. And yeah, they just had a little, tit for tat with each other. And then after that, that was pretty much it for them. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the performance of Zoey and Indi? And how do you feel about Indi just being mad? Like, seriously.
I'm good. I like that Indi's getting more time. Like I felt like I've said so many times, but like I hate it that I didn't know where they was going with her direction, and that she was always attached to like a group, and so we wasn't sure how she would be on her own. And then in the beginning, she was losing a lot, and so I do like that they're finally putting some oomph behind her where she's winning. I think that's good. I still don't know really what her character is per se, but I like that they look like they're trying to back her into something, and so I'm looking forward to that. Just because I saw the comment, I don't think she's ready for Raw just yet. I don't think she's ready for Raw SmackDown just yet. I think she needs a little bit more time, but I do want her to reunite with Dex because that was my couple. Index was I love them, and so I do, as my little heart likes the sappiness, I want them to reunite at some point, but I do think she still needs a little bit more time in NXT. It was a little weird seeing Zoey like this because she can wrestle. And so I get being upset that she lost, but it's a weird thing to be aimed to the point where Nakia gotta be like, okay, sis, when out of the two of them, she's the more experienced one. And so it was a really odd like thing to kind of see Nikita trying to calm her down when Nikita's kind of the newbie in wrestling. Like she hasn't been like you feel like with your experience sometimes you don't get and you get it's okay to be frustrated. That's a very normal reaction, but to be that angry, I was like, it was a very weird. I didn't know how to like take that because it was just like, but why are you this mad as if you didn't lose to Mandy Rose? Like, like you lost the main championship match, and granted, it was shenanigans in that match too. But the point was, you wasn't even that mad about that, and you came back like this was you coming back from being gone for a while. She was gone for a while, and then she came back, and it was like, oh, and then she won the tournament, all to do that and lose, and she didn't react to how she's reacting. So I'm like, this tag team belt is making you this upset. Like, why are you this pressed about some? Again, not saying you don't want to have a title match. Of course, if you want to be a champion, you want a belt, it's fine. But I just thought it was a really weird reaction to losing a tag team title with a teammate she just kind of got paired up with the last couple of weeks. But you wasn't this upset when you lost a championship and you had a good showing at a tournament, which kind of made you the number one contender. And so it was a really weird thing for me. I didn't understand how she was that upset to the point where it distracted her from my match. And even to be that upset when Nikita is still your tag, if you're still going as a rematch, wouldn't you want to be on the same accord with your tag team partner? And so if you're in a weird space with her, how well do you think you're going to win the next match if you're angry at something that's not necessarily her fault, because you both, that's a loss you kind of take as a team. And so this is both you and you're like, oh, but I'm mad. And she's like, I feel like that's a weird thing going into another tag team match, trying to win titles, if that's the headspace you're in. And why are you just more aggressive about it than you was when you fought Mandy? She moved along from Mandy kind of quickly, actually. I was like, oh, you don't want to rematch? I remember I was thinking she was going to take the belt too. And I was like, go get your rematch. Just the next minute she's tag teaming. I'm like, oh, all right, well, never mind. There goes that story, for me. And so it's just really strange that this is the reaction to losing the tag team titles, but you wasn't this upset when you could have had the main title, and people was kind of behind that too. I don't know. It just didn't really sit. I didn't understand it.
I never thought of it that way. But then you also have to think about it, like the tag team titles were the first titles that I guess Zoey Stark won in NXT. So maybe she has more of a sentimental tie to that one, and maybe that's the reason why she's really that angry. And then when you look at the match that her and Nikita had against Team Casey Squared and how amazing that was, even though they had to restart it, and how they were really coming in hot, and how it was close but no cigar with them in that match, that's probably why she's so angry, because she felt like they were like this close. That's probably why. But I do get your point about not being as angry with not winning the NXT Women's title in terms of her being a singles thing. But maybe she feels like she operates better in a tag team. I don't know. That's just me sort of playing to the other side of it, but I don't know. But Shay, how did you feel about this match and the direction of Zoey and Nikita?
I liked it. I enjoyed the whole back and forth because I feel like they both got their licks in. Unfortunately for Zoey, she is falling victim to them trying to find a way to occupy Nikita before they're ready to push her on to Mandy. Like, it's so obvious. They just want to give this, she's going to lose it and she's going to attack Nikita, and then they're going to go into a program. It's like clear as day to me. And so I'm just like, it's unfortunate, Zoey. You're just a pawn in a story for someone else's rise to the top.
Dang, Shay, another cold world comment. Like, you really think that Zoey is being used as a placeholder for Nikita and her rise to the top?
Sadly, yeah, no, seriously. It's obvious, because at first they wanted to be tag champs. Then when they saw, I feel like they checked the temperature of online sometimes with certain things, and the temperature was definitely not give them the titles. It was not good. So I feel like this is just something to kind of like give Nikita something to do, because they're still trying to figure out who's going to take that title off of Mandy. Whoever takes it will probably be like a transitional champion, and the person who wins it after that will actually be the person that's meant to have it.
It's a very different opinion, a very spicy mindset. I like it. You never really know. But I have seen that discourse. The fact that some people online do feel that they're trying to set up Nikita to be the next girl. And a lot of people have mixed feelings about her being the girl for various reasons that we won't necessarily get into here. But it's just, I almost feel like I wouldn't necessarily. I don't hate Nikita Lyons in the least bit at all. I feel like she has, a good base to start with, but I don't necessarily know if she's really ready to be a champion right now. I mean, in terms of singles work, like I don't think
She's not.
she's really ready.
I
She's
agree.
But
definitely not. I
I
don't
don't
think
think
she is either.
she's
She's
ready to
still
be the champion,
she
the
still has
champion.
too many things I catch in matches that I'm like, gotta tune that up. Because as a champion, you know how wrestling fans can be very brutal, but social media wrestling fans are even worse. So
Yeah.
you can't be being a champ doing some of the things I call her doing in the ring. Like that, they will eat her alive. I don't think she'll be able to. And I'm not saying people should be mean on Twitter. Like I might say what I say, but I'm not gonna personally go find their at, and that's unnecessary. It's a little bit too much. But I do think she definitely needs some tuning before she's even. I'm like even with the tag team things. I'm like Zoe's the experienced one, and maybe that's why they threw her with her. But I'm like, why are you even this high in a tournament when you still like some of the teams that they went through? I was like, so we're gonna ignore? Okay, I see like they're trying to keep her active. Like I definitely see they're trying to keep her busy, but she definitely does need some more fine tuning. She is not ready to be no main champion yet.
But that is also weird though, because a lot of people did also say that about, and I hate to throw this in here because that is a completely different promotion or a different show. A lot of people said that about Jade Cargill too, that she wasn't necessarily ready, or in their opinions, they felt like she was a little bit too green. But at the same time, she was still working on her craft, and then she did become TBS champion, and she still is. So I wonder if it's a different standard there between Jade and between Nikita. Like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I just it's kind of hard.
I mean, I'm appreciative of Jade. She's a black woman in this type of role, and so that's always good. But I also did say she was a bit green. She's
Mhm.
gotten better, and you can see she's gotten better. But in the beginning, that whole undefeated streak, I side-eyed every time.
Mm.
There's no way I'm believing you're just undefeated and you can't do this correctly. I'm gonna have to. And so there's a couple of times where I'm like, you faced this opponent and you won. Okay, I mean, I guess if it works. There's a couple of times I definitely said I did too. Like I say, I'm glad she's been training with Brian Danielson, because he's a phenomenal wrestler. I'm sure his wisdom and his training is like priceless. And so that's good on her. It truly is. I respect anybody knowing I gotta tweak this, I gotta get better. I respect that. And I'm glad again she's a black woman kind of holding a title in a place where we kind of had the side eye how the women's division is ran and how they do people of color in there, especially the black. Like we have to, I'm gonna cover Tony Hawk rants about how they do that women's division over there, and I do not understand it. I don't understand how sometimes he gets very defensive when you ask a question, and so I have my thoughts. And so it's nice to see a black woman representation. And she's also a built black woman. And it's not like she's like angry black woman either. She's like, oh, I'm pretty. And it's like that vibe. And it's not like angry black woman, and so that's good. But I definitely side eye a few of her wins because I'm like, sis, how? How did you like? Because she needed to tweak things. I mean, I'm like, if you're gonna be an unstoppable force, you have to come out from the gate like damn near perfect for me to buy that personally. Like anytime somebody has like the undefeated streak, I'm like, you better come in hot every time that I can't even see that something's wrong, because you're supposed to be this undeniable force. And so when I see that, I'm like, how am I supposed to buy this? And so again, I respect that she's where she's at. I think it's a great thing, especially for the women's division. But I definitely said my opinions was the same with both in regards to you might need to tune some things, but at least she's been working on it. So with her, she's had some time to work on it. Nikita ain't there for the way they've been trying to push her. I'm like, sis needs some time. She needs more time. And I feel like, because I don't know how the fan bases when they watch AAW, but I've seen enough of how the NXT tweeting is happening when I've watched NXT during like people live tweeting, and sometimes people are brutal. Like people like, obviously men like the aesthetic. Like that was a big thing, like, oh, she's thick and all this other stuff, but that does not make you a wrestler. So just if she can tweak and tune some things where I'm not catching it too much, then I feel like at that point, if they make her champion, I will be more accepting of that than me believing she's supposed to be undeniable when she was like a couple times she completely missed things, and I was like, but how? Like, and I'm not again saying I can do what wrestlers do, because I truly cannot. I tell all the time, we be fighting for real. You touch me like this, and so, but I didn't understand something she kind of missed, and I'm like, but how was that even possible? And so for things that she's like missing, and that like, she just need to tweak. And if she can does that, and I can say maybe a year, I'm saying like maybe a year. If I see her back in the title picture, I will be more accepting of that as a fan. Now, absolutely not. I'm just like, no. If y'all gonna sit here because the audience is feeling about the body type, that's a stupid reason. That she's gonna get on a champion and they're gonna eat her alive. Wrestling fans are horrible sometimes, but I think social media makes them worse. I feel like they make them more extra because they're behind screens.
Yeah, that's true. I just brought that up for the sake of conversation. Shay, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, she definitely is very green. But I think they're still trying to occupy her, and I think Zoey is a great person to go against to definitely see what she has when it comes to her in-ring ability. So we'll see where Zoey leaves her when this is over, because I'm telling you now, it's she's gonna turn on her when they lose again.
Ooh, that's gonna be brutal. And I hate that because because it's like they showed in that clip when Zoey and Nikita were having that interview before their first tag team title match. Like, Zoey was the one who kind of took her in and actually helped to train her a little bit, as Nikita was getting started. So maybe, hopefully, during this time together, when Zoey isn't so mad, she can actually help Nikita fine tune those things, and hopefully Nikita will continue to grow and get better before she is a champion. And even though they may seem new a little bit now, you just never know how they'll rise to the occasion and actually possibly get better. So you just never know. So the future is still bright as long as Zoey doesn't let herself and her mindset get dark. So moving forward, we did have another women's match. Jesus, all the action between Miss Cora Jade and Valentina Feroz. Now, this kind of came in the midst of Valentina trying to navigate her friendship with Sangha. And she asked him if he was going to be out there, to be her moral support. And he kind of declined a little bit. And she was disappointed, but she said she was going to go out there anyway and face Cora. And then Cora came out there with that kendo stick or whatever, still trying to look like um somewhat of a badass, but whatever. She just gets on my nerves a little bit. I just don't like how she did Roxanne. But either way, this match was still pretty good. Even though Cora was still making fun of Valentina Feroz during the match, Valentina showed a lot of her high flying action here, like as you see, but Cora moved out of the way. Cora was able to jump on her and use a little bit more of her offense against Valentina to try to just take advantage of it. And Valentina really was trying her best here in this match, but Cora Jade even hit a running back elbow into the ropes, and then she choked her out on the second rope. But in the midst of that, after that point, Cora Jade wound up winning the match, and then she was yelling at her, and she was just like, yeah, I won the match. Like, who do you think you are? You're in my ring. You're in my NXT. This is my place or whatever. But I'm just like, yeah, this is your place. But girl, you don't run nothing. You don't have a title. You lost your best friend. All you have is a stick. But either way, whatever. As she was barking at her and continued to beat up on her after she lost the match, Wendy Chu comes out and makes the save. And then as freaking well, actually Wendy Chu was watching backstage as Valentina was asking Sangha about his allegiance, but then she came to the aid of Valentina, and then as Cora was trying to swing on her with the kendo stick, Wendy ducked it, and then she knocked it out of her hands and then tried to swing on Cora. But here again, Miss Cora ran away like the chicken that she is, and was looking all dastardly up at the ring like she did something. But my thing is, girl, you didn't do anything. You ran away. Like, stop. But whatever. Well, actually, let me switch it up and ask Shay. How did you feel about this match, and how do you feel about Wendy Chu being next to come after Cora Jade?
I mean, I like the match for what it was. I don't think it was like this 5-star classic, but it was a good match for what it was. And I think that there's a small storyline being built with Valentina for us. She's losing all these people. First, it was Yulissa Leone who got the knee injury, and now she's losing Senga. So there's something brewing there, and I think there's potential. She's very talented in the ring, and Cora is a bona fide star. Like from her entrance, her presentation, her mic skills, her music is amazing. She's a star. And Wendy, I think she's just someone to hold Cora over until Roxanne comes back. Because Roxanne, I don't know where she is. She just disappeared. But I definitely don't think it's over between them two. Even though I would rather it would be. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do kind of wonder where Roxanne is, but you know how sometimes, after a really big win, just like with Braun, they'll take a couple weeks off before they pop back up again. So maybe she's okay, and maybe she's just taking a break, because that match between her and Cora was really brutal. Where I'm not gonna lie, it was brutal, and they did do a great job. And I'm glad that Roxanne won, because of course, you can't just break that girl's heart and just think you're just gonna run off scot free. Which is something that Cora likes to do a lot. She just likes to run from the things that she does, and makes it everybody else's fault, like a classic narcissist. But Katrina, how did you feel about this?
It was okay match. It wasn't bad. I am interested to kind of see what they're gonna do about Valentina though. Uh, it's nice to see there was like a lot of women in this episode, and so I'm always like, how are you gonna make this person where we can remember them in like 2 weeks or a month? And so I'm hoping they do something with that. As far as Cora Jade, well, sis, I didn't like what she did to Roxanne either, and so every time I'm just like, I hope Wendy just get her, you know, with a pillow, 'cause she likes to sleep in, get a couple of pillows, knock her out a couple of times, and it's fine. I love Wendy. But I just Cora just got my bad side when she did that to poor Roxanne, who was doing nothing but being great. Okay. But not to rant on that again. But with that being said, I mean, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping they, like I said, I feel like every time they give Wendy a storyline, she kind of goes away for a little bit. And so I'm hoping that if they're really putting her in a story with Cora, and they truly moved away with Cora and Roxanne because Roxanne got the final laugh, per se, then they do some justice with Wendy in this story and give her some, and not like she has like a one-off match and then she's kind of gone for a couple of weeks and she pops back up. I'm hoping they don't do that with her. But for what it was decent.
I agree. And I also agree that I do wonder, about the direction of Valentina Feroz, but at the same time I felt like she did pretty okay in this match. But it's just that when it comes to Cora, she just is it's just so funny for her to sort of come back and act like, you're this, you're carrying around this big stick literally. But it's just like you're acting like you won something, and it's just like, ma'am, no, you didn't. Like, you lost, and you're acting like you're just all this hot stuff. And I'm just like, girl, I need for you to calm down, humble you thyself. Like, stop it. Stop it. And then I'm just glad that, honestly, she's the one. I feel like I'm glad that Wendy Chu might be the one to humble her a little bit more, because she could stand a little bit more humbling, because but either way, whatever. Um, then after this match, we had a segment with Tony D'Angelo and Stax backstage talking about business and certain things. And Tony was trying to, give Stax a little bit of encouragement in terms of being a boss or whatever. But then backstage, we had a little bit of appearance from Miss Elektra Lopez, who made her appearance last week on NXT and said that she is glad to be her own boss, and how she actually kind of likes it. And Stax actually asked Tony, like, do you think she really has what it takes to be her own boss? And then Tony, weirdly enough, co-signed it and said, yeah, I do. And I thought that was really cool and interesting, and a nod to their past history, because of course her and Legato were attached to that family after Santos and him had their little rivalry going on. They were connected to the family until they separated, and then Elektra stayed in NXT, and of course Legato is on SmackDown now with Zelina Vega, which is great because I love her. But yeah, that was a really cool nod to some NXT history there. How are we feeling about Elektra Lopez and her return and what we can come to expect from her as a solo performer?
I like it. I was a little sad that she wasn't with her squad. Not gonna lie, but I love Zelina too. So it's like oh sadness, but oh yay, because I like Zelina. But I'm interested to see now what they're gonna do with her solo. They're gonna really like get behind her, or is it gonna be? I don't want her to be lost in the shuffle per se, and so hopefully they really put some off behind her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for her because I did think she wasn't really 100% ready for the main roster. So I think if they were going to get anybody to take that role, Zelina was the perfect person to do that. And I think she has a lot of potential. I mean, she has everything. She has the whole package. She just needs to tweak the in-ring a little bit more. But I do think she has a lot of potential, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
As am I. I'm very excited for her. And I was sad. I agree with the both of you. I was really sad when she did separate from Legato. But Zelina is perfect in that role because she's the ultimate manager. The Queen from Queens is amazing. So I am glad that they do have that getting together. But at least now Elektra does get to stand on her own 2 feet and figure out how to blaze her own trail. So I am excited about that. But moving on to our main event, because this show was really stacked. They had a lot going on. Moving on to our main event, we had the NXT tag team match between Pretty Deadly and, of course, the NXT champion Braun Breaker and the NXT North American champion Wes Lee. This match was pretty good from the parts that I did see. Of course, everyone was showing the best of everything they had. You had Braun Breaker's power and his brawling style and his intensity mixed with Wesley's high flying style. And you also had all the craziness and the craftiness of Pretty Deadly in this match. Lots of close calls, as you can see right here in this picture. Wesley had almost took a pin there, but did not. But either way, this match was still really good. There was one point where Wesley really did get isolated in the match, which is a very smart tag team tactic to use. He got isolated for a while, but then he managed to send Pretty Deadly outside of the ring after a while, and then he made a mad dash to Braun for the tag, who basically hit a double suplex on Pretty Deadly before throwing Wesley onto both of them. But what's so funny is during their match, and while all of this amazing stuff was going on, and when it looked like they could have taken the titles away from Pretty Deadly, guess who decided to pop back onto the scene after losing the ladder match? Mr. Money Mellow himself, Carmelo Hayes. And he came back and he dumped Wesley to the floor, which allowed for Kit Wilson of Pretty Deadly to steal the pinfall. So Pretty Deadly wound up retaining their tag team titles. And then after that point, Braun Breaker was looking kind of stunned at first, but then before he could even look stunned, Von Wagner wound up attacking him from behind. Um, by giving him a big boot, and he just attacked him a little bit more, and that was how it ended. But then that's how the match ended, rather. But as this was going on backstage, Apollo Crews was watching because of course he's saying that he wants to be next in line to challenge for Braun Breaker's title. But as he was watching, with disgust, with Von Wagner sort of trying to stake his claim, you also had JD McDonough watching Apollo Crews, watching Von Wagner attack Braun Breaker. And that's how it ended there. So it looks like we have 3 wannabe contenders for this title. So that's how the show ended. So just to end and cap it off, Katrina, how did you feel about this match? And how do you feel about the landscape of the NXT title with these 3 men?
I thought it was a good match. It was Pretty Deadly is like a really fun tag team, and so I would have been a little annoyed. Honestly, I didn't think Braun was and Wesley. I didn't see them winning that, but I would have if they would have tried that. I would have been annoyed. Let's not do shenanigans. You don't need to do all that. Again, I originally, like, it was just supposed to be a fun little match to have, just something different, and so they delivered. As far as Carmelo, I was wondering what happened because he kind of been a little MIA after that, what you call it match. So it was like, okay, here you are, and so that we kind of imply like, could we see Carmelo in a picture at some point now that he, lost his NXT American, championship twice technically, because he lost it to Solo Sikoa and then he lost the ladder match. And then Ron Wagner, I was like, oh please, like I was like, no, stop. I was just no, I'm not accepting that. How dare you think you're the next? No. Mm-mm. I was a little annoyed by that because I'm like, I don't want to see you as the next competitor. Like that's how I felt. So I wasn't really feeling that. And I'm not even sure how I feel about Apollo Crews because, like, I get it, but it's also like, but what did you do to decide that she was the next? So I was really confused. At least with Carmelo, we kind of at least she was working in title pictures. So it's like, okay, well, the next step may be this title. But what the hell was Apollo Crews doing? Like, what was you doing? That is oh, now it's my turn. Should I go and ask Shawn Michaels? Is it my turn? Like, I didn't understand how you thought you was the next option. And don't, like, Ron Wagner, please. No. At no point was I like, I can see it happening. I was just like, you can go backstage. How dare you hit Ron? How dare you? So that's my thoughts. Otherwise, I did like the match, but I was kind of annoyed with who. Like, how did we get here? How are these the options? I didn't understand.
Look, Kat, I absolutely agree with you, but I'll go into my points after Shay goes. Shay, how did you feel about it?
She's about to get on you. Listen, I liked the match a lot. It was very fun. And I do see Carmelo, it's inevitable that he will get the title. And it would make no sense if he left NXT, he never touched the NXT title. Personally, I just feel like that would be such a disservice to America, to the universe, maybe even. And also, Von Wagner, go away. Seriously, I'm so sorry. Like, he's literally, that is height privilege if I've ever seen it. Because I can't. Like, hopefully this is a very small filler feud. It lasts a week, being this past week, and then it just ends next week. And then we move on to Apollo. I will take Apollo, for God's sakes. Please.
She said height privilege. My God. I mean, but you're not
definitely height
you're not
privilege,
wrong.
It's not skill.
Right,
I wasn't
shots
like, oh, I'm
fired.
impressed. I was just like, ew, why are you taking up screen time? So I totally understand. I was so annoyed.
I understand that. Like, I understand, the anger from both of you, because it's just, of course, Carmelo is going to challenge Wesley for the North American title, even though I wanted him to challenge Braun Breaker for the NXT title, because, sweetheart, you've had the NXT North American title multiple times now, and I want you to challenge for the big one because you could be the face of NXT. But then again, maybe him challenging for the North American title for one last time or one last go round would be a nice little farewell for him, I guess, if you want to say that, before he would go to the main roster. But my thing is, I want to see if he could be the main champion, because we really haven't had a main black NXT champion since Keith Lee. And he held the North American title and the NXT title at the same time, and he didn't even have the NXT title for that long. So honestly, I wanted Carmelo to challenge for the NXT title and not for the North American, but it's pretty clear that he wants to, make the North American title his baby, which I understand. It has a good history behind it too, but I want him to go for the big one. Secondly, what I will say to Apollo Crews is the fact that he was making it seem like, kind of like, how some people say in those memes how you flirt with somebody by you staring at them and you want something to happen, but you're not speaking up or saying nothing to them, but you're just staring at them and admiring them, but you're not making a move. That's Apollo Crews' problem. I feel like with him talking all his stuff and him defeating Grayson Waller in that casket match and saying he was next in line to challenge Braun Breaker for the title, I feel like for somebody who's talking all this stuff and having all this vision or whatever, he is not making his presence known that he should be a main event player when it comes to this sort of thing. Like, if you're going to go forward in this title picture, you have to stake your claim. And honestly, even though Von Wagner may not necessarily have all of the pieces to put together, at least he attacked the champion. At least he touched him. Apollo was just watching on the screen. And even JD McDonough, like as much as he gets on our nerves, in terms of him trying to challenge for the title for the umpteenth time again, and wanting to ruin Braun Breaker's life, at least he has fought him and actually touched him. Apollo Crews has not done anything to Braun Breaker. He hasn't even verbally challenged him. He's only said this, in the case of a promo, but he has not taken his opportunity. You have to take your opportunities in life. Ain't nobody gonna hand you nothing. You got to take it. Okay. And he's not doing that. He's not doing that. And I'm going to need for Apollo to actually stand up and take his opportunity as opposed to just thinking he's just going to manifest it by just staring. No, baby. Faith without works is dead. Say something. But either way, that's how I feel about the whole thing. But that's just how I feel about it all. But either way, that was a solid ending to NXT. They have lots of cool stuff going on. Their advertising deadline, which is taking place in December, which will be the last, I believe, they said the last NXT Premium Live event of the year. So it's really cool stuff going on. I'm excited. But that's the end of our time. I know we went pretty long, but either way, it was a really great show. This has been a really great show. So thank you guys for watching and participating in the comments and stuff. Yeah, JD, I did get hot, okay? For real. Like, you can't just sit there and just do nothing. Like, I'm tired of it. Like, take your things. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to Shay for coming in because you added so much to this conversation. I was so glad to have you. I'm so happy that you were able to join us. So tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you've got going on.
Yes, thank you for having me in the streets of New York for this episode. Yes, my handle is Shay Sawyer _ on most platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Follow me. I do host on Unpopular Review every Tuesday directly after we do that. And we also have a podcast called The Big Pop Theory that their episodes premiere every Monday. So every Monday, keep an eye out.
Good, good, good. All kinds of good stuff going on for Shay. And what about you, Katrina, my tag team partner?
I'm on. Yes, she was. I'm about to bring it back around to that. But you can find me on most social media platforms in Cat We Trust, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. The E is a 3 because people are sad and took my E, but it's fine. As far as what I have going on tomorrow, I will be in the Bronx doing some backstage correspondence for We Are Wrestling. Welcome to the Bronx. With another panelist, Karen will be on the card as well, and so super awesome, excited for that. Next week on the 11th, if you are at the UK, the three of us, as well as some other lovely ladies that were on the panel with us, will be on MCM Birmingham Comic Con for the panel Women of Color Wrestling Behind the Magic. And so that's pretty awesome. And some other stuff I can't really announce just yet, but that's happening. I'm excited for that. And just pretty much trying to finish out 2022 with a bang. It's been a crazy year.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. But per usual, know that you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy. Please listen to the Hardy Wrestling Podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm under construction right now, but trust me, when I come back, it will be bomb. And I'm really excited for all the changes that will be taking place for my own show. So please be on the lookout for that. But like I said, I'm on hiatus and under construction. But in the meantime, like Katrina said, you can check all three of us out if you're going to be in Birmingham, UK, at the MCM Comic Con in the UK for our panel. It was a real honor to be able to do it digitally, of course, but still being able to do it regardless. It's really cool. So please check that out. And of course, there'll be other stuff on the way, like Katrina said. But of course, know that you can follow us at Women's Wrestling Talk on Instagram and Twitter at WWTalkPod. And check out our website at www.talkpod.com, where we have articles, merchandise, and all kinds of amazing goodies for you to consume, if you love women's wrestling as a whole, we have it all. And I also have an article on there about Zelina Vega, the top 5 Zelina Vega moments with an honorable mention. Please check that out as well. But yeah, embrace us. Follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. Just everywhere you see women's wrestling talk, follow us, because we are them girls and we do the dang thing for women's wrestling as a whole. So until next time, this has been the NXT After Show, which takes place every Thursday night. Yeah, I hope you guys have a fabulous Thursday night. Very relaxing night as well. And until next time, bye y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the number 1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the number 1 women's wrestling show on the planet.